Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Wherever you are in the world, welcome and thank you for joining us. We're live at AutoSens Brussels 2020 World Museum, surrounded by the history of the automobile while simultaneously embracing its future. We're thrilled to conduct our latest edition of AutoVision News. We are talking to some of the world's leading minds in ADAS and autonomous vehicle technology development, all from inside the warm and nostalgic embrace of this incredible venue. Joining us now is Jan Aelterman, assistant professor at Ghent University and Imec. Jan's research area interest is application-specific challenges for computer vision and sensor fusion. He built a career that's over a decade long and a strong academic record in different application fields, which includes things like MRI, CT, microscopy, consumer video, and automotive perception, which we're talking about here at AutoSens. Jan is co-author of the 2022 AutoSens Academy module and was a speaker at AutoSens Brussels last year, where he gave a talk on the real-world value of multi-exposure and cooperative sensor fusion in automotive perception. We're glad to welcome him back to AutoSens this year. Jan, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Indeed. Jan, tell us a little bit about your work with Ghent University and then Imec as well.
Yeah. So I'm an assistant professor at Ghent University, as you've explained, where I teach and do research on computer vision. And initially there was just computer vision, just how do you deal with the camera and the output from that camera.
Yes.
But more and more we started to realize that a lot of interesting research questions come from collaboration with industry and research questions that arise from the applications.
Sure.
And in solving those research questions and working with industry, we realized that the answer is not always in just computer vision, not always in just a single camera sensor. Sometimes the answer is in bringing in other sensors into the solution,
Sure.
which is how you end up with sensor fusion, and sort of made a thing of it. And along the way, I've also became a part of Imec, the Inter-University Microelectronics Center. It's actually an acronym, and they're of course world-renowned for their work on microelectronics.
Sure.
And they're also now looking for opportunities to combine microelectronics with sensor design and sensor processing and sensor fusion to come up with end-to-end solutions.
Yes.
Which is how I ended up there as well.
Yes. So as we saw in your bio, your research interest is in application-specific challenges for computer vision and sensor fusion. Jan, why have you chosen this area of research, and what do you find most interesting about it?
Well, I like to solve real-world problems.
Sure.
And as you've well explained, I think, in the resume of my career, I've worked in many different application fields. And what I noticed is that a lot of the time, some applications have problems that also show up maybe in a different form in other applications. To give you an example, the talks today, just at AutoSens, just this morning, they were about image quality.
Sure.
About image quality for automotive. Now, image quality, as you might imagine, is also a big thing in consumer video. And so if you work in that field, you will find that solutions in that field about denoising specifically for that application carry over into autonomous driving as well.
Sure, sure. Jan, let's get a good definition of sensor fusion. When we say sensor fusion, when we see sensor fusion written, what does that mean?
Naively, you might think, okay, we will put a camera on a car and we will make a self-driving car. But as anyone will know, that camera will not be perfect. For one thing, camera cannot see in the dark. So how do you solve that problem? Well, you bring in another sensor, but that other sensor will also have problems in different areas. So sensor fusion in the broadest sense is when you use a combination of sensors to build a system that has the best, that is actually the sum of its parts in terms of quality.
So now that we have a good definition of sensor fusion, what are the advantages then of sensor fusion when we're talking about, say, those difficult edge or corner?
So that's actually where I think my research comes in. You have to imagine that you're driving the car or a car yourself, and you're the only driver. That means that the only sensors in the car are your eyes. And you either see an object or you don't. How do you improve the perception in your car? maybe you have a co-driver at one point. That's another set of eyes.
Sure.
That's another set of eyes seeing things. And then in the most naive sense, sensor fusion would be that you call out the things you see and that your co-driver calls out the things that he or she sees.
Sure.
But I would assert that that still is not a perfect system, because there are things that you might have considered relevant, like a silhouette somewhere in the fog.
Right.
And your co-driver had also seen that, but also not considered it relevant, though that person was looking from a different angle.
Right.
And then none of you would have called it out,
Mhm.
but still you would have actually seen something. And what we try to do in our research is cooperative sensor fusion. It's where the sensors also exchange information on things that they deemed unvaluable by themselves, but
Yeah.
that when combined actually result in a very confident observation. And we think that's especially useful in corner cases like fog, like nighttime, like when there's a lack of light.
Yeah.
We had a lot of different sensors collaborate to see something that they would not have seen by themselves, to make a system that is more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah. That's an amazing example. I really like that analogy. That's fascinating. Yeah, the driver, the co-driver, but then combining the information, having them communicate with each other. We're speaking with Jan Aelterman, assistant professor at Ghent University and Imec. What trends do you see on the horizon, Jan, in the ADAS and autonomous driving space?
Well, I think so. We are moving towards higher levels of autonomy for self-driving. And just yesterday was a very fascinating talk on functional safety,
Yeah.
where I think a number was floated that you cannot tolerate autonomous vehicles causing more casualties than 1/4 billion miles. And that was 20 times lower, so 20 times higher bar compared to humans driving.
Sure.
And if you want to achieve that level, well, then you should prove that your system functions correctly, not in normal circumstances like you would see when you're driving now outside, but especially when it's raining and it's night and the headlights of the cars have just broken down, and
Right.
it's a very exceptional case.
Sure.
You will not have a lot of data for that, so that's an AI challenge as well. But you also need your system to function correctly under those very rare circumstances.
Sure.
To avoid hitting somebody under those very specific circumstances.
Yeah.
And that's where I think a lot of the research in the next few years will be centered around coming up with better solutions for those corner cases.
That's fascinating. So well said. Jan, what is your favorite car? What is your favorite car and why?
That's a tough question. I'm actually more of an airplanes man, but
Okay.
When I think about my favorite car, somehow I always think back about my childhood.
Sure.
And about cars from fiction. About
Okay.
how, the cars in James Bond, they always have the right solution for the right situation. It's almost as if they knew what was going to happen better than the driver actually knew it. It's not even an autonomous car, but it knows the roads better, the
Yeah.
environment better than even the driver. And I think that's where we want to head towards, and we will make strides towards that in that direction in the next few years.
Yeah.
And that's what we need, a car that knows safety at least better than the human driver.
Yeah, well said on, and it's certainly for any of our James Bond fans who may be watching 007. Let's talk about the airplanes, though. You said you have an affinity for airplanes. What do you like about airplanes? What's your favorite one?
I'm maybe a bit biased because I'm European,
Sure.
but I really like the Concorde because it's the supersonic jetliner that
Yes.
used to travel between Europe and the US.
Yeah.
Because it was just such a fascinating combination of cutting edge technology. First computer controlled inlet ramps, at the time the best performing thermodynamic engine in general, not just airplane engine, but in general,
Right.
Supersonic, and the glimmer, the glitter, as well as the technology, and it's a beautiful streamline as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. That can be a lot of fun reading about the Concorde, or watching even YouTube videos on that. That can be a fun deep dive, very fascinating on that. Yeah. Jan, thank you for being with us. Have a great rest of the show. Safe travels home. Let's do this again sometime in the near future, but thanks for sharing your thought leadership with us today.
Thank you for your invitation.
More to come as we continue with AutoVision News live at AutoSens Brussels from the Auto World Museum alongside Jan Aelterman. I'm Carl Anthony, AutoVision News.